All right, so I made this tier list the other day after working on a video or so. I think I was playing some Line of Contact and then got off and made this while I was bored. And I was thinking about, hey, there's not a lot of resources out there, at least in recent history, of good VTs for newer players to jump into. People may have their own rankings of good VTs to pick just overall with how strong they are, and you can pretty much form your opinion on that pretty quickly with some of these VTs, say the Jarlax, the third gens. But there wasn't really anything out there that gives a good VT for newer players to just hop in and learn the game in a good way. So I just kind of made a tier list that can be used for pretty much anything you want. But today I'm going to be using it myself for all 31 VTs to kind of rank what I think personally, subjectively, is the best picks for a new player if they were to jump in, say, free mission or campaign on any kind of mode that would let them get some good impact, but isn't going to be too demanding on them mechanically in order to get good impact out of. I think the way we'll go about this, we'll just start from the top bottom and then go from there. So, first thing up, Falchion. Falchion is kind of middle of the road for me. Most other first gens I put a little lower because of the whole thing with needing to freehand. Freehanding takes a lot of practice to get good with on your own ping, but due to the fact that we play with a lot of international players usually, um, there's no rubber banding in Line of Contact. It just enforces a slight input delay on every single player in the game if the connection's at all bad. And if it gets worse, it'll stop the game for a little bit and then pick it back up. But otherwise, there's no rubber banding. Everybody sees what the server sees, basically. So that means that you get input delay. And that makes something like freehanding way harder when we start to expand who we're playing with. Um, and on top of that, the Falchion is one VT that you need to kind of know how to drive VTs already to drive this thing pretty good. Just playing Steel Battalion, you can get kind of used to how many times you need to hit the balancer. But for those who don't know, these VT types, the Falchion, it's part of a subcategory of lights or scout types or like fast attack types. And these types turn very fast. They move very fast, but their bouncer is really bad, which means it tips over really quickly if you do a lot of turning that you have to do in this kind of VT. Otherwise, you're just stiff as a board. So having to compete with that and the fact that you need to freehand your guns because you're in a first gen VT, I wouldn't necessarily say, hey, welcome to the game, hop in this joint, I need some falchions. No, I might tell you to go something else with maybe some simpler weapons and better handling. Nevertheless, it is a very valuable VT. And I want to dissuade somebody from wanting to learn how to pilot it, but I want to say while you're just getting acclimated into the game, really think about if you wanted to play this kind of VT. And any VT in B tier as well, just hopping in, these might not be the best picks for you. They'll be fun and very interesting, and you could definitely learn these, but these will take a bit of work to actually get results out of. And I'll go ahead and put the decider in there too. It's another VT that just needs good freehanding. Otherwise, you just do not deal much damage at all. A lot of the decider's damage is based on if you can actually hit your free-handed shots or if you can get yourself in a position to where your lock-on weapons can actually hit. From this, you have this 6.7 chain gun. Not a lot of damage at that kind of 200-meter range up close. And you have a plasma torch, which you kind of need to know how to throw that into people, which is a whole nother thing. And your main weapons, very, very damaging potentially. You have a machine gun, smoothbore, and even the TR, but those all at a certain point need to be free-handed if you're not completely point blank with somebody. Which again, free-handing, even on your own ping, that takes a lot, and it can end up interfering with some of your maneuvering if it becomes too taxing on you, especially with ping. But if you can do it, this is the most damage you can receive as a first gen, maybe outside of maybe the Falchion if a full AR hits, consistently with the most HP in the first generation. And then as we talk about first gens, I have to put the Scareface one in S tier, one of the few S tiers. Um, there's literally nothing not to like about this VT. Lore wise, Goodman got their ass kicked, and this is on turn 2 when this released. This is the VT that completely throws it back in Hai Shidao's favor. Historically, as well, when this game used to be played at the actual like service of that campaign had, this is the VT that kind of reset things for that whole faction because of how good it was. You have 300 more HP than the Decider at 2,500. Your bouncer is a little bit worse, turning a tiny bit worse. Speed is just about the same though. You have a smoothbore. You can use a sniper if you want, but you get recoilless options and you get T-nades. And the significance of the recoilless weapons and the T-nades is because both of these weapons are proximity fused. So you have what's called the 77 rec, and you have what's called the T grenades or triple grenades. It's 3 grenades you shoot out, and they are proximity. If they get close enough to the enemy, they will just pop and they'll do 100 damage. So, and the recoilless, the 77 rec is what it's called. It does 100 damage. So imagine you're throwing out 3 nades that do 100 damage each for 300 damage, and then you're throwing out a recoilless shot that does 100. So you're doing 400 damage per hit or per volley. So you can imagine over the course of a fight that adds up 400, 800, 1200, 1600, 2k, right? And then you've killed something with 2k HP or more just off of living long enough, right? And people still have to cut through your armor. Now, it's not usually as fast as I say it is in terms of how that kills people, but in a generation where people are having to freehand otherwise to get their damage off at you, that kind of consistency is really valuable. On top of the fact that it can switch modes and say, hey, I'm going to grab a sniper rifle and hit you at a range you cannot ever hit me at, right? The sniper rifle you never see until the 2nd generation after this VT. So, like the Decider has the plasma torch, which makes it kind of exclusive in that generation. The sniper rifle on the Scareface is kind of exclusive to this generation, and it gives you a range that you've never seen before in the first gens. Just all in all, while I yap about this, very well-rounded VT in the first generation. It starts to get problems in the 2nd generation upwards, but even then, this is one of the few VTs in the first generation that can consistently fight up its gen with good results, no matter what. Great sub weapons, great main weapons, and the performance is awesome for the generation. You can't turn super hard with it, but you just need to respect the balancer with some taps of the slide step. Doing that, this is a VT I would happily throw any new player on, because of how cheap it is at 20 strategic points and its effectiveness over the course of the game. There's really no wrong way to play this VT. Next, I'll have to do probably the Vortex. I put it in A, but it's like a very soft A. I can't recommend it too hard, but what it is kind of the first step into playing artillery, and it's a very forgiving step. You're only worth 10 points, and the utility you bring as a Vortex is just really, really cost effective. Probably one of the most efficient VTs in the games based on what it does to all generations of VTs if the artillery is able to hit. The only issue with this VT is that, like the Volcanic, bad speed, bad turning speed, balancer is a little bit worrying. But for what you do in this VT, it is almost irrelevant if you're playing the game right and your teammates are treating you right. There's really no bad way to play the Vortex, just that you need to be consistently helping with the artillery piece and actually like pressuring people on the map. But you pressure people just by throwing out artillery. So while I say, oh, you need to be helping people out with pressure, you just kind of do that by existing as an artillery VT yourself. And your ability to do damage to people is just really consistent, and it can be really annoying for people. Vits, I'm going to go ahead and put both Vitses down at C. You can get good at Vits. The balancer is really forgiving on Vits. One of the best balancers in the entire game, even compared against some 3rd gens. But the problem is that it turns so slow, it moves so slow, and the guns make you play so close without getting a lot of extra damage that it's just more than just frustrating for most new players if they just try and gun it out in this. Now they do have their role as just kind of disposable like close range fighters, but that's kind of a role you need to know how to pilot VT in general with. Especially if you're playing a VT that has low turning speed, you can't really rough it out at a mid range or so with a lot of other VTs. You really do need to be at a close range and try and beat people up at that range. Getting to that short range, staying in it in a way that doesn't immediately kill you, and actually coming away with kills and big damage, that's pretty hard. That's pretty hard, especially when you're just starting out. You can barely turn, you're trying not to tip over, and now you gotta worry about getting close to this fucking decider that's gonna like 3-shot you with a TR. Like, it's not very good. But there's definitely something there for you if you want to play Vits. And there's the regular Vits. I'll put that in there too. There's something there for you if you want to play Vits, but you're going to have to very much work at it and understand the game at a macro level, which you're just not going to at the beginning. Another thing is that speed and the low torque that it has. If you play it wrong positionally, you can end up taking forever to go to certain places. You can end up like abandoning your teammates in some spots if they need you, just because of the difference in torque and speed is just really hard with this VT. So you kind of need to know some map knowledge and where like you're the strongest as well. Otherwise, you end up leaving people. Maelstrom, I'd say A. Maelstroms generally provide impact no matter where they are in the match, unless it's underground or so. Just off of the strength of their side weapon utility. Great howitzers. The MLRs are super good. Not even when they're straight lined, like using the straight line technique that kind of lines all the MLRs in a line. Not even when doing that, the MLRs are just really good utility from that mid to long range. Just great damage, right? Lights people on fire. The performance isn't that bad for the second generation. It's way better than the Vortex by far. You just get a lot out of playing a Maelstrom, and if your teammates help you with it, they can get a lot out of it too, and that extends for the entire game. When you're low points, when you're high points, when the fight gets really close, really far. But yeah, playing artillery, probably one of your most safest picks for like damage and cost. Colt I gotta put in B, but only like really far right of the board, like B. Like the executive right here is way better. I'll just go ahead and put that in front of it. Maybe even I would actually put now executive's way better, but let's start with the Colt. I put down in B and not S with the executive because it has bad turning. The speed is not that good. The balancer is not that good for the Vits tier speed that it has. And the guns, while you do have DP missiles, which is very good, the Falchion has DP missiles, and it's like one of the best sub-weapons you can grab, the most consistent sub-weapons. The weapons it has is basically on par with the Vits. You have the rifle, the recoilless options, and the machine guns. It still does damage, but it's not a lot of damage. Your other options other than the DP missiles are the 6.7 chain gun and the nade, the singular nade. So DP missiles, they can blink on people and hurt them a lot, but if it ever gets beneath that range, you start to have damage issues other than your 140 machine gun. You do have better torque than the Vits. Traversing the map, you're a bit better than the Vits. You cost 4 more points, and I think it's worth it, especially when I get into this next thing with the marker launcher. The marker launcher is just kind of a narc-like weapon from Mech Warrior Online that just kind of shoots out a missile that goes really fast. It's proximity technically, but you just throw it at somebody and it marks them on the map for 3 minutes or so. And it's a lot of utility. It's really good utility because people who see that mark, they see it globally. No matter where they are on the map, you will see that player who is marked. Their direction, their designation number, so like 1 or 5, depending on the order they joined, you're going to see them for the duration of that mark. That level of utility is a gigantic jump from the Vitzes that, have roughly the same amount of weapons minus DP missiles, but just don't have the marker launcher. I'd say if you like Vitzes, try the Cole out if you want to save points that much, because the amount of extra help that you give just playing like a Vitz, but then also marking people is really, really good. It helps out the regular gunners of your team. It helps out the artillery people on your team. And just really good. But for this VT, I can't really recommend it too much because it means you have to actually know how to pilot pretty much first gen VTs, because it's kind of a mashup of the Vitz and other combat forms. And it doesn't really perform too crazy. It wants to fight where it's hilly, if at all possible, because it can assault hills good and it can actually play off of hills good. But other than that, it's not really good on the flat. You'll have to get used to using the really close range forms of weapons, or even like the recoilless options if you need to, or the rifle, which is not good damage. But as we go into executive, it fixes the turning, it fixes the speed, it fixes the weapons. You get smoothbore, you get T-nades, and you get your marker with a little bit extra carry speed. It basically is one of the best glow ups of a VT that exists in the entire game. Over the M1, M2, M3, it's the best glow. It's a better glow up than even those VTs. It's a better glow up than the JAR C to the JAR NS pipeline. It's better than that by so much. Probably even better than the Falchion to Blade glow up. It's the amount of value you get just off of the 2 extra points they demand from you is really good off of this VT. Great HP, just 100 points less than Decider. It's just really good, and it handles really good. The bouncer doesn't suck. The HP's good. The turning is on par with the Decider almost, and you get a lot of extra utility. Probably the best thing I can put a new player in if we have to put him in a first gen, just because even if all he does is mark people on the map for us, he can still actually try and get some damage out there, right? And so you make a play, you could get a kill on somebody stronger than you. So I have to put it up there in S tier for that reason. Next, M1. M1 I put in A. M1 kind of demands that you know how smoothbores and FSS interact with each other, and that you kind of get in and play close and try and use your melee effectively. Otherwise, it kind of has issues against people who use machine guns and have good sub weapons and stuff like that. But in terms of a safe VT for people to play, this is one of the safer second gens for people to play. But ironically, as we talk about safe VTs, we got pretty much one of the GOATs of the game in general, the Yellow Jacket. For comparison against the M1, this thing is 10 less points, but you get a machine gun, you get a marker launcher, you get triple grenades, you can get the TR if you want to. You can get up to the 355 smoothbore, which is like the tier 2 smoothbore. And marker launcher, if I didn't say that already. Just amazing guns, probably the best selection of guns for the price in the entire game. It has special effects with its walking speed and its interaction with FSS. The torque is great, but the only real issue of this VT is that it has 2,800 HP, which is about 300 points away from the Scareface 1. Not too big a deal, but it adds up when fights go long and there's just a lot of sub-weapon damage and poking. And the speed of this VT is literally the equivalent of a Decider. Like if you go on the wiki, it has the same speed as a Decider. You have to see it. It's absolutely crazy. But a Decider basically keeps pace with this thing for infinity. So that means every other combat styled second gen pretty much outruns this thing. Now it doesn't get outran by, say, artillery stuff or things meant to be slow, but seeing that's the pace of a Decider, you can kind of make an idea of how fast it is. All that to say that it also doesn't have missiles as well, like other second gens do. So it kind of forces it to play close range. It doesn't necessarily want to have to chase after people for a while. While getting missiled, it can kind of get led astray. They just want to kind of get in and get their value with their weapons and then get a kill or die. Oh, and before getting marks. But all that to say, especially with FSS, this is the cheapest thing that has FSS in the entire game. Not even the Blade is this cheap. And it's super good for that. The guns are not terrible at all. It can mark and give utility. Probably probably it's in talks for being one of the best VTs in the game, most efficient VT in the game, and I do think it's probably one of the best, if not the best, VTs for newer players to jump in, just because of its generation and its light of cost, its ease of use, and just the weapon selection. It's almost never a bad idea to pick a yellow jacket, because the yellow jacket kind of fits into a lot of lineups. It gives intel. It gives somebody who's cheap who can run in and fight like a first gen, while putting out like almost second gen levels of damage, if not on par with other second gens. Next, I have the blade. Blade I'll put in C. A lot of second gens I'll put not in C, but I'll put it in B. Blade is not that inexpensive. It's about 35 points, so about 5 points up from the yellow jacket, but its HP is only a little bit better than the Falchion. It does have FSS, and it does get the additional upgraded AR that does a bunch of damage if everything hits. The only problem is it's still a VT that is very tippy. It turns great. The damage potential is great on it. The defensive capabilities of it with override are great, especially when getting behind people and staying behind people. But it's not a VT you'd want to start out in necessarily. I'd say when it comes to light VTs, you want to start early, but it's not going to be easy. And for that, I have to put that in B. Any VT like that, I have to put in B, because it's going to ask a lot of you, and you're not going to be able to make a lot of mistakes because you'll just die. Next, I believe we have the N. So this is one VT that's probably the most expensive one I'll put in S, and probably the only other one other than these three that I'll put in S. It's 45 points, but like I said about the versatile weapons of the S tiers, this also has very versatile weapons. You can play short range, you can play mid range, long range, you can play extra short range if you want, due to it being a Jarlac. You have the ability to artillery people and then run up to people and run them down and kill them with DP missiles and machine guns and smoothbores. You can also have missiles if you want. Very rare that an artillery VT has missiles. This might be one of the only VTs that, well, other than the M3, that can run missiles and run artillery at the same time. That's a very deadly combo. Usually you only have one or the other. You're either missiling people or you're hitting them with artillery, or you're sniping them. But this VT has both, which means it can kind of just hold down the trigger and just keep hurting people and making them waste resources and armor. On top of that, it controls very well. The speed's not that bad. Armor's really good. Bouncer's great. Just never a bad pick in some lineups. And for a new player, I'd say it's a lot of points to put on them, but it's a really good VT. Try not to overcomplicate whatever you do, and the VT just gets you a lot. Jar C, I'll put an A. The stats of it is the reason why I put it here, and the fact that the melee weapon and the anti-VT mines are really good. But the mines and stuff are not really the reason why I put this VT like this. It's because of the HP, the distance modification, and just its general strength at just being a close range fighter. This is one of the most iconic close range VTs in the entire game. With a little bit of game knowledge, this VT is very, very good, right? Using mines, using your front armor to dissuade machine guns. It's a very capable VT, but the only thing that keeps it from being an S is just the cost. Those 5 extra points really do sully it for me. I barely want to put in an S. It's kind of like very far right of the board S of a VT for me because of the points. This VT asks for 5 more points, but you do get a lot of amazing stats out of this VT that make it very scary to fight head on. In a circle fight, it's a little bit more palatable of a battle to do. But if this pilot controls their gears, they go slow and they keep you in front, you have to be very, very close with many weapons in order to hit them. And that's not something you necessarily want to do against this VT, because it wants you to go into that trap, not try and get to its sides, and collapse on you with a lot of damage and potentially trip you over, which is game over in some gens. Just a very good VT. It requires just a few bits of technical knowledge, and then it its effectiveness just goes way up. M2, gotta put in C. This handles too bad. The railgun is a whole another level of good weapon, but the handling is just too bad. I can't expect a new player not to fall on the ground over and over playing this and keep up with the team. Not that it's that slow, but the turning is so bad that it's one of the worst in the game, both in speed and balancer. A1, it's like the other lights. It has a lot of utility, but I can't really recommend somebody jump into it, especially when they're trying to learn to freehand. You can get by just using the 77 rec though, and it does have a marker for good utility, but overall, like I can't really recommend it too much. Yeah, I have to leave it in B. Volcanic, this VT takes a shitload from you in terms of mechanical ability, and your howitzer is not that strong, so you can't just rely on that. This VT needs you to move around a lot, but also not move around too much because you don't want to mess up your bombs that are really small and precise. And has a lot of missile cam opportunities with its rifle and good close range damage with its MG. And it's got like a bit more damage than the Vortex, but just the bad performance specs on this VT just makes it really bad. And I can't really make somebody new play this without feeling like a shithead. Scare 2. In the second generation, it's got very, very, very strong sub weapons. It has the 100 chain gun that you don't see till the third gen, and that does almost best in slot sub weapon damage for the category. But every other weapon on this VT, it doesn't really let them fight close range at their full deadliest potential. Your close range weapon is really just a smooth bore. This VT's best effective at that super long range when you can use missiles and use a sniper rifle. Being in close range is not something you necessarily want to gun for when you're playing this VT. You can build it to be in that kind of way, but it's not too conducive of your game plan as a scareface, and it's not where you're most effective. And long range tactics that can be kind of hard to mess around with for newer players, although they may be more comfortable to go ahead and do. One of those VTs I'd definitely say start early with trying to learn the metagame of this VT, and it can become good. But it's not something I would readily throw someone in, especially because the little inconsistencies in its performance can throw off a newer player. NS, like other newer, more later gen VTs, I can't really recommend too much just because of the price alone. It ends up becoming very costly to ever respawn or die in it. But the performance is really good. I believe it's only 60 points. For the value you get on 60 points, if the NS player plays very defensive, it's a very capable VT. But like I said, it's about 60 points, and I can't really readily recommend a new player play it, especially when there's a lot that you can do with this VT and you don't want it to be wasted. Garpike, also have to do it for that. It's 55 points, but it needs to be very close range and be close range very well. It can turn amazing, and its speed's great, but it's not something I would say, hey, can you play Garpike for the first time and like help lead the team as we like push through this corner here? No, it's like there's like multiple different ways to run at somebody in a Garpike. You can run at them with mines. You can run at them with a flamer. You can try and melee them. You can try and sit still and milk for extra AR damage. It's just a lot. It's information overload. Behemoth, probably B as well. You're not going anywhere in this VT. It's very sluggish. If you get jumped on, you're gonna feel helpless. But it's some of the best artillery like you can give in the entire game. If you want to go after artillery, have a mind to at least plan for having a behemoth and what you'll do against the behemoth. Otherwise, this is a VT you'll probably have to learn, and you'll need to also be tapped in with how the game is being played on a macro level throughout the map. Because if you're not, you are going to be spotted. You are going to be rushed and killed by a falchion, and you're going to feel very bad. Rapier, very expensive light VT at 45 points. Some of the best weapons a light can have in the entire game. That makes it a very strong VT. All with being under the cost of a Garpike, right? It has a melee weapon that can shut people's VTs off. It has a guided mortar that makes people chaff to not get hit by your mortars. Just really crazy shit, and it's one of the fastest, if not the fastest, VT in the entire game. Next to the sheepdog. But it's still tippy. It's still really tippy, and there's a lot riding on a rapier pilot that you don't want to just randomly see them die. So not something I can necessarily say, hey, just go grab this in. M3, really important VT in a game. One of the first steps towards third gens, but just playing with and against the railgun, it's not something I can readily recommend to a new player. There's a lot of performance, a lot of damage, but there's a lot that you need to do as an M3 in terms of like picking the right guy to railgunning the right times, and dodging things so that you can still railgun people, but you can also dodge every shot landed at you. An M3 does behind that curtain. It requires a lot of like help from the team in order to use safely, but it can also kind of just run alone and railgun people to death. But still very expensive, like 65 points. Like there's no way. Sheepdog. I want to put it in C because it's a VT that requires a lot of technical skill and also a lot of macro game skill and ability to kind of call out people in the chat. It requires a bit of map knowledge too, and like usage of the map knowledge. If you can understand that, like kind of the ability to use the map as well to communicate is it's a skill you have to just kind of learn. And I might just put it in C because of that. This VT is very, very good, and it's only 45 points like the rapier, but the thing is with it, its weapons aren't too crazy. Its strength is that it has map hacks. And map hacks as in you see everybody's enemy VT that is online, not shut off, but online globally. So it's like you have a personal mark on every other VT globally. So it's literally like cheating in a VT, but you need to be able to communicate and plan this and kind of illuminate what this looks like to your teammates. Not something I'd say start out on, but you could definitely learn and use it like these other VTs. Siege Zug, probably C. It's not the fastest. The guns don't kill the fastest, and there's a lot of opportunity for you to mistakenly swap to the shield binder, which causes a gigantic animation. Macabre as well. Macabre. It also has a shield binder. Great weapons, great performance, great speed, great armor, but really too costly for a new player to jump into. And then now we're down to these third gens. I could just throw these all in like the bottom tier, but there is important things you can learn on these VTs. But I'll just go ahead and start out with maybe the Earthshaker. Using the Gauss, you can actually be impactful and it's not too difficult. But this is as far as it goes in the tier list because it's still a third gen and it has some weird performance inconsistencies because of how big it is. Regal series, I'll actually put the Regal A at B, the artillery variant, and I'll put N and C. There's a lot you need to do in a Regal there's a lot you need to do in a Regal N to make it work good. That won't be apparent on your first few times riding it. And there's a lot of points riding on you. So it's pretty scary. Quasar, wherever I rank the Quasar, I'm probably ranking the Juggernaut because they have similar loadouts, even though one has a melee weapon, one doesn't. One is more HP and one doesn't. But I just have to say, like, yeah, put them in C. Say you start the game playing third gens, right? All you do is drive third gens, right? You jump in on free mission, you play like 50,000 third gen matches, and then someone's like, hey, let's play second gens. No third gens, guys. Or you actually go to campaign, you're like, I don't have a third gen. Well, you're going to experience like a giant case of just like generation shock that is unrivaled. There's a lot of depth to writing third gens, and not even in piloting third gens in campaign, because there's macro game and then there's macro game outside of the matches that you have to worry about when playing third gens. These VTs give you a lot of power. They're like universally great. Weapons, speed, performance, armor, torque, turning, some of the best turning in the game. But they're very expensive. If it dies, your team loses a lot of points. You're probably getting kicked out of the game. And yeah, it's to get the most out of it, you just need to have ball knowledge in the game, right? It just requires a lot of you. But yeah, this is my list for some of the best ones to ride. There's some of the best VTs to ride. If you're new to the game, look at these, but don't just look at the S tier. Take a look at the A. See how these go for you. The A are easy to get into, but can be mastered. They just don't give you everything. And then everything in B, these are all picks that you can learn to drive, learn to like, and become good at them. C, though, you need to be good at the game just fundamentally, and then these start to give you rewards.